Hello and welcome back to the ministry. And today's topic is let your season of growth create your reason to breathe. I love how God works because I was okay with everything as it was going. But this morning I found myself in a place where I was frustrated. And I don't believe it was so much for myself. There's a lot of things going on right now, not just spiritually. There are things that we see happening. There's prophecies that are lining up right now. There's a lot going on. And we may find ourselves in a place where, especially as children of God, that we're givers, we're doers, we're this, we're that. We have a tendency to desire to want to feel like we're making an impact in the season in which we're in. And sometimes God's got you in a resting season. And it's not that you're not doing anything, it's just that you're not doing what you feel like you should be doing in a season like this. Sometimes God's greatest warriors and intercessors, He'll put them in a season where they ain't doing nothing. And it's like there's that element within us that has a tendency to feel like our spirits are ready to run. Our spirits are ready to war. Our spirits are ready to do. And then we won't feel like we're doing anything. It'll feel like nothing's happening for us. And it's like, I get it. Some of us are in seasons where we're called to just intercede, and intercession is warfare enough. And the Lord will have you on a day-to-day basis. I need you to do this one assignment, but you just go and do your fasting, your praying, your intercession, and the assignment I have at your hands right now. And we kind of get into this phase. I like to call it the rocking chair phase. Tell me if you understand the rocking chair phase. This is the phase in which you kind of feel like the Lord has given you a vision, an idea. He's been leading you towards a direction where He's telling you, you're about to move, you're about to do this, you're about to do that, you're about to. And you're kind of in that, you're rocking towards that thing that He's told you you're about to do. You're preparing for that thing you're about to do. But because you're preparing for that thing, you feel out of place because you're moving towards it, you're leaning towards it, you're pressing into it, but it's not moving. But then there's that element which makes you lean back that says you're where you're supposed to be. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but sit back, you're okay. If you realize in the previous words I've done, I was saying that we're supposed to be in a season of rest, and our season of rest sometimes look like we plan, we rest, we run. Sometimes the Lord is telling us, I need you to rest, I need you to rest, I need you to rest. And we're like, well, everybody atmospherically is saying, move, run, time, transition, go, this, that. Lean forward. But God's saying, I need you to stand still, sit still. You're where you're supposed to be. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's okay. Lean back. You feel the rocking chair motion? Forward, backward, forward, backward. It says in the word, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. But is it that you're double-minded, or that you want to feel like you're ready for where you're supposed to be going, but while sitting in the peace of where you are right now? Some, and this is what gets into what I have written, God always has given me an alignment to what and where we are right now, where We are people in our human innate nature want to work. Society tells us to work. Don't take any time to yourself. Stay busy. Wear yourself out. That's not a godly principle. Hustle mentality is not a principle to live by. But you see that that's a slavery mindset. That it's not what God wants for you or your life. He wants you to prosper. In order to help you prosper, He has to give you what you need. Do you realize what we as people have a problem with is allowing ourselves to rest, ourselves to receive, and to breathe? How often do you find yourself when you're in the midst of these types of seasons, you find yourself getting into a level of anxiety, whether it be for the people around you or the situations that you know of? Me personally, if it was up to me, I'd never turn the TV on at all, because to me it messes with my peace. But I'm currently living with somebody 24/7. They gotta have a TV on 24/7. It's either the TV, the cell phone, or the radio. Now, to me, that irks my spirit. I remember it was a little over 7 years ago. I was listening to one of the prophetesses that I listened to, and she was talking about something in relation to your spirit is different and is no longer going to be satisfied with the mundane or the atmosphere in which you're in. That noise is even going to irritate you. Now, at first, I didn't think that it was going to be a problem. Sometimes I listen to her and it doesn't immediately affect. When I tell you it immediately affected, within 24 hours, I started to notice little things were irking my nerves. Things that would have never bothered me. And from then on, I can't really, it bothers me to be consistently in an atmosphere of too much noise, because it's messing with my spiritual frequency to be able to hear God the way I desire to hear God. And in itself, it makes you anxious. But all in all, the media, the radio, all this stuff is designed to make you anxious, including social media. Social media is actually designed to keep your attention for periods of time. And I was watching something and I kind of ignored it maybe about a month or so ago, and they were talking about, if you find yourself scrolling social media every single day, sometimes it may be that you're stressed and you're inadmittent to the fact that you're stressed out. So you're using the activity of actively scrolling 24/7 as a act to get you to a level of calmness. It's almost kind of like those AMSR videos that you see where people watch videos on YouTube just because it's calming. For me, I've learned that if I can't control the other person that I'm living with, then I have to find something to deter and or block the distraction, which turns into me scrolling YouTube all day long, or scrolling and trying to get that keep myself in a spiritual headspace. Because if I don't, the consistency of the intensity of what the other person is watching, listening to, so on and so forth, is going to bring my mood all the way down. If I didn't have that in my atmosphere, I'm at peace. when that person is not in the space I'm in, I'm at a level of peace because I can readjust the level of peace in the atmosphere, which allows me the ability to calm down. Now, this isn't actually where I was going with it, but I needed to make that statement. Sometimes it's the people around you that kind of get you in that double-minded space, because it's not so much that it's you, it's the distractions that are around you that kind of take your ability to be able to rest to the level that you want to. I've been in scenarios in the past few years where I got to take the time that I have to work with the time that I'm working with. Meaning, if the house is empty, I need to take the space of emptiness and work on the things in which I need to work on, which means I might not be able to take a nap at that particular point in time, or I might not be able to, because the things I need to work on, I need the silence to, in order to record it, to create the content, to do this, that, and the other. And sometimes I find myself running marathons of work when the space is empty. And it's not so much that it's a hustle mentality, because the Lord kind of orchestrates it like that sometimes. He allowed it that I'll be in a rested state right up until the point that I need to run, and then during the time that I have the space to myself, I get tons of batch content done. But it's that element of having to do that consistent hustle in relation to that. So when you're kind of in a state where you can rest, you feel anxious in a state where you have nothing to do in those time frames. The thing that was bothering me this morning was I was thinking about the other person that I live with, and I'm like, I started to think about where I see this world going, not because of what I see on the news, but all of the prophetic confirmations and the things that are being said. And I get concerned about this person, the way that they're handling their life and so on and so forth. I get concerned. And sometimes I find myself, the word says, honor thy mother and thy father. And I've always felt like I had to be the one to take care of. And it makes it kind of hard, because I feel like at the age I am, I should be able to do more for them. But I was listening to one of the other young women I follow, and she was talking about how she was looking at the same person in her life, and how they were exhausted and tired and dealing with all of this kind of stuff. But she's in a different position. She has her own home. She works with them, but she wishes she could do more. And that's kind of like what we do. We wish we could do more in the scenarios, but God kind of has us in a resting state where I want to do for you. I know you want to do for them, but I need to do for you. I remember I was listening to Lisa Nichols. It was an interview from years ago, because I remember when that interview first came out, and she was talking about sometimes you got to put on your own oxygen mask first before you go and try to save somebody else. Sometimes you got to take the time to rest. You got to take the time, and there's that feeling again. The part of you that's pulling you to want to work, to honor, to do for the other person, to move, to get the thing done. And it kind of speaks back into that thing I was telling you about before, validation, but in a different way. You need to feel validated in the fact that you're getting something done, validated in the fact that you've accomplished something. But it also feeds into the proving mechanism of self, where you have to prove that you are what you're doing matters. What you're doing makes an impact. What you're doing is influential, and you kind of find yourself falling into that. I was listening to a little snippet that one of the young women I listened to did this morning, and she was saying you have to get yourself out of a funk in order to do what it is that God called you to do. Because I was thinking about not even doing this video today, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it because this is part of the ministry God gave me to do, and it's important and it's relevant, timely. We can't allow the distractions and the things that are going on around us to stop us from doing what we are called to do, because they come, but we have to get in alignment with what it is that we are called to do so that we can walk into the blessings in which we are called to in this season. With that being said, but you see the things, the thing is, you are growing into the elevation and beginning to learn yourself. You begin to learn what you can handle and what you can't handle. God does not give us any more than what we can handle. If we have more on our plate than we can handle, it's because we put it on ourselves. And a person operating in a hustle mentality sometimes has a tendency to do that because of the fact that we feel like I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something. And that's anxiety. What does the word say? Be anxious for nothing. Operating in wisdom and the ability to learn God's process, that when God wants you to rest and what God wants you to work on, and when he needs you to rest and when you need to be working. A lot of times we'll feel exhausted when we need to work because we were working when we should have been resting, because we off of God's timing. Why is that? Because what the enemy does is try to distract you in your season of rest and tell you, you need to be working, work. Whether it's mental and spiritual or it's external, people start to push you in that realm. And you have to be able to center yourself in God to know, God said rest, I need to rest in this moment. God said work, I need to work in this moment. Even if you're dealing with warfare that is trying to pull you into a state of oppression that you feel like you can't work because you're so fatigued, and you got a python spirit trying to choke you out, and you got to fight against that, and you got to fast against that, and you got warfare on your head, and you're feeling like, God, I don't feel like I can do this right now. And God's like, fight through it. So it's like sometimes we need to fight through it. Sometimes God allows it so that we will rest, because we weren't resting otherwise. You have to learn to be unbothered in certain issues and distractions, focusing on other people and what they're dealing with and taking that weight upon yourself. Remnant Rising released a word 4-5 months ago, which was called Don't Take Their Burdens Onto You. But she was actually talking about kingdom marriage. But it's relevant to the people around you. Sometimes you find that when you're resting and you're trying to lay down and you're trying to gain your energy back, there's a part of you that doesn't feel like it can rest because it feels like the other person is doing so much. How can I feel good about myself resting? I feel like I should be doing something. And when you want to honor thy parent or honor the people that have been taking care of you, you don't want to feel like they think that you're being lazy or what have you, even though you know you aren't, because you're doing all of this work. It's just you have yet to see the fruit, which you're seeking the validation of the fruit in which you've already put out. But God's saying the time will come, and when it does, it will be of ease to you, but I need you to rest, because I don't need you to get over to where you have to work that hard and be sitting there saying, man, I wish I had rested. Philippians 4:7. And the peace of God, which surpasses or transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. New Living Translation. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Jesus Christ. There's the parable of Jesus and the boat. The boat is rocking and everybody else is freaking out, but Jesus is laying still. But when they wake him, he goes out and just simply tells the storm, silence, be still. Sometimes we are the ones that are meant to lay still in the midst of everything while everybody else is worried. I need money. I need this. I need that. And sometimes their burden in being so, I don't know whether I want to call it empathetic or a feeler type prophetic person, you feel that person's anxiety of, I want more money. I need to hustle. That's the mentality that they grew up with. If you have anybody that knows, got older parents, especially fathers, men have the tendency, I gotta provide, I gotta provide, I gotta provide. So if they feel like they need to go out and they need to make money, then if they're not making it, their mindset becomes, why am I not making it? I can't do this, da 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 da. Or if they aren't, they want to take that stress and put it on you. Well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be. And then you feel that because it automatically is what they've always done. You have a tendency to be anxious on yourself because even if they aren't saying anything to you, because of the fact that, one, they're a parental figure or somebody you feel like you should honor, that you should be able to make it easier for them at the age that they are. But at the same time, you're not allowing yourself the ability to rest because God's telling you, I told you, you're supposed to rest. I did not tell you that. I was listening to a word last night, and the young woman was talking about all the things that they have been talking about spiritually is going on, about the fact that publicly there's coming a famine, there's coming this, that, and the other. But God's preparing us, the children of God, to feast, to go into plentiful places and abundant spaces. And he's got us in resting seasons, and everybody else is worried about the famine and the prices of food and all of these kinds of things, having to spend more money for the things in which they didn't have to spend money for before. And it's that element of, and it's that coming to the understanding of what it is that you want to actively do. And it's almost like that element of the split that I was talking about. Me and the other person that I live with, they have a tendency, they're feeding themselves the media, they're feeding themselves the news, and I'm feeding myself the word and words of wisdom, words that are empowering me. But because it's literally, I have one earphone in every day that I can still hear everything that they're listening to because I let them have my regular earphones. And I end up having to listen to parts of what they have to hear on a daily basis. And it gets in my spirit. And it makes me anxious. But we're supposed to be anxious for nothing. And I always have to pray for the peace of God in my atmosphere, in my space, and all of these kinds of things. Because of the fact that I know to put into my spirit positive things, but they're doing something different. And it's even the ministers that they listen to. I'm not particularly fond of who it is that they listen to in ministerial. It's something off about that person's spirit, and it puts us at odds with one another when it comes down to God and Christ. So it kind of is an imbalance there. And I don't want to be double-minded, and I don't want to have two ways of thought. So when it comes down to it, so when you are being tested and stretched, pressed in, you will see God, and God will give you room to breathe in the midst of it.